Hey, what's up guys? Joker here, and welcome to the performance review for Rise of the Tomb Raider. I was a big fan of the last Tomb Raider game. It wasn't as good as the original games, it wasn't as difficult as them, but it was still a very good game in my opinion. The graphics were good. I love how it tied together real-time action with the cinematics. I thought it blended that together seamlessly and told a really good story that way, and the camera work was some of the best I've seen. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the performance review. And as we always like to do with these things, we're going to start off with the options menu first. So coming into here, we'll go first into our audio and language options. You can see we do have different sliders in here for our music, dialogue, and special effects. Nice to see that there. We can set our voiceover language and our text language, and we can set subtitles on or off. You cannot set a custom device in there, like you can't set headphones or speakers or surround or anything like that. So kind of disappointing. I would have liked to have seen that. But, you know, whatever. Let's move on from there. Let's get into the display options here. Now, the first thing I want to mention here, because this threw me off right away, is that initially I just had it on full screen, because usually you'll see windowed, borderless, full screen. So I just put it on full screen. But that seems to actually be like their borderless full screen mode. And exclusive full screen is like actual full screen. So on this mode right here, I was getting like 35 FPS and I was having some serious issues. Once I switched it onto this, it got a lot better. I was getting like up around 60 frames. It was still not perfect, and we're going to talk about why in just a little bit. Like SLI in this game, not good. So yeah, but yeah, well, we're going to talk about that, but exclusive full screen, if you want the best performance, my advice is use that. That's the full screen mode for this game, which is what I usually use for games. Now, when I first came into the game, it was set to 60 Hz, but I could go to 144 Hz, and it does support 4K. I did try to get ultra-wide set on my other monitor, but I could not get it to go to an ultra-wide resolution, so I don't know if that's being supported natively or not, or if there's a config tweak for that. I haven't seen anything yet. I checked PC Gaming Wiki, and I didn't see anything. So right now, I could not get ultra-wide to work, just to let you guys know, but I did test 4K, 1440, 144 Hertz, all works okay. Down here, we do have anti-aliasing. We have FXAA, SMAA, nice to see SMAA, I love that. We have SSAA 2 times and 4 times. Those are going to be really taxing. I'm opting to use SMAA because it is my favorite form of anti-aliasing, and of course you can turn it off as well, but I do like the SMAA, so I'm leaving that on right there. And finally, you can do the VSync. You can do off double or triple buffered, whatever your preferences are right there. Coming out of there, we can go down to our graphics options. All right, so I am on a custom, but I have everything cranked up to the max here. Texture quality, I do have up very high. We have anisotropic filtering 16 times. And just so you know, texture quality is going to really put a hurting on your video memory, but we're going to talk about how that, as my phone's dying here, we're going to talk about how that actually affects performance once I get into the gameplay here. But with it up at very high, in some areas I was seeing my video memory at 1440 getting maxed all the way to 6 gigabytes, so be aware of that. Anisotropic filtering 16 times, shadow quality, Sunsoft shadows, ambient occlusion, this goes up to HBAO+, that is an NVIDIA specific technology. I've tested with this on and off. I think it does make it look a little bit better, and I did not notice a massive performance impact. When I was having some performance issues, I tried toggling a lot of pretty much every one of these options on and off to see if anything would give way to giving better performance, and this did not make a dent in the performance at all. It was like maybe like 1 FPS, so the HBAO+ for me was a non-issue. Depth of field, I got that up at very high as well. We got our level of detail here. Tessellation, we can just turn on and off, and we also have our screen space reflections as well. We can toggle on and off. Dynamic foliage, bloom, vignette blur, and motion blur. Now, normally when I am playing, I will be turning off vignette blur and motion blur, but for the purposes of testing and giving you guys the performance numbers to be as accurate as possible, I did have everything cranked up to the max. Apart from anti-aliasing, I tested with SMAA because the SSAA is just an absolute killer, and it's totally unnecessary, especially at 1440 or higher resolutions. You do not need SSAA or anything like that. After motion blur in here, we do have the option for pure hair. We did talk about this recently. We can turn this off, on, or very high. I've been running it on very high, and I've also tested it off to see what the impact it was on performance, and it really wasn't that bad at all. It was only just by a few frames, so I didn't see any massive performance impact with pure hair, so they've done a pretty good job as far as optimizing that, and I didn't see any flickering with it on SLI, at least so far with my initial testing. So really pretty good job with the pure hair. I have no complaints about that whatsoever. Really good job. Definitely nowhere near as much of a performance impact as something like NVIDIA Hairworks. I'll say that for sure. So they've done a bang-up job with pure hair right here in this game. Lens flares, we can turn that on or off, and we do have our screen effects, and that's going to round up our graphics options. We will go into our mouse and keyboard in here. You do see we can remap all of our key bindings in here, which is good, and we can set alternate key bindings as well, and that's it really. Nothing else too crazy in there to go ahead and talk about. And we can see our gamepad mappings. If you want to use a gamepad, you can. Can't remap into anything in here, but you can just go ahead and view it if you do want to. But let's go ahead now and jump into the gameplay, talk about how the port quality is, see if it's meeting our expectations, yes. Okay, so I want to let you guys know that I did test on all the resolutions and graphics cards that I had here that I could test on. So I tested on my 970, I tested that at 1080, as well as 1440, and then on my main rig I tested my 980 Ti's in single as well as dual GPU for SLI at 1440 and 4K. Now, as I mentioned, I couldn't get ultra wide to go to 3440 by 1440 for whatever reason. That was not working for me natively right now upon release. So I did test those resolutions though on these systems. So let's go ahead and run through the numbers here, and I'll be putting them up on your guys' screen here, so it's a little bit easier for you to track now. Running on my main system here, obviously I'm on SLI. I gotta tell you guys right off the bat, SLI in this game is not good. Not good at all. The SLI scaling is absolute pants. It really just threw me off right away. I thought maybe it was just the opening area because there was a lot of weather effects going on, so I fought through that, got through like the opening prologue area of the game and into Syria, and kind of like ran through like a benchmark on there, which I thought was fairly close to the benchmark from the last Tomb Raider game. If you remember, it did have a benchmark that just kind of ran in a circle around Lara, and people have used that quite a bit. I've used it myself quite a bit. So they don't have a benchmark built into this, so I had to recreate my own benchmark. So once I got to the Syria area, I decided to use that because it was on the side of a cliff, much like in the previous game, and they didn't have any crazy snow or weather effects going on. So I was hoping it would be indicative of, you know, gameplay throughout the entire game. And playing through some of the caves and all that, I would say that it was pretty accurate to what I was seeing. But the numbers fluctuate around. This game's kind of all over the place. But just get back on track. SLI scaling was not good. So I switched over to single card, and it did not get any better. So with SLI, I was getting up around 60 to 70 FPS most of the time, but sometimes I was dropping down to like 40 to 45 FPS even. Sometimes even as low as like 30. It really did get that bad at some times, but at 1440, I found the game to be playable for me at least. It's not going to stop me from playing it for the time being, but they need to do better. They did a really bad job with the SLI scaling on this game. It's the performance is pretty much identical to single GPUs. They have not done a good job here with SLI in any way, shape, or form. No way. It's almost unusable at this point, or it's not unusable. I mean, you can use it, but there's almost no point to at something like 1440. I tested at 4K. I was getting sub 30 FPS there. Video memory is getting maxed all the way here. It's getting maxed to 6 gigabytes at the very high textures. I went ahead and turned that all the way down to low to see what it would do, and I actually watched it dump the video memory at 1440 all the way down to 2 gigabytes, but have virtually no effect whatsoever on performance. Almost no effect whatsoever on performance. So even though my video memory on very high is getting maxed out all the way, it's not really throwing, it's not really affecting the FPS too much, as far as from what I'm seeing anyway, at least in my testing here on SLI and the single GPU. Now, I also did jump over onto the test rig, and I tested the 970 at 1080 and 1440, and the testing matched up with what I saw here on my main rig. At 1080, it was getting around 45 to 60 FPS most of the time with everything cranked up. Now, obviously, you could tweak this quite a bit. You could turn things down to high, maybe knock down pure hair, and probably get a more consistent 60 FPS experience. So the performance will scale down if you lower, a good amount of the options, but just, there's not really just one silver bullet option here that I could find as far as just knock down pure hair, or just knock down textures, or just turn off HBO Plus or NVIDIA GameWorks features and it'll be fine. There was not a silver bullet option that I could find in the menu like this. That's why I went through and tested all of them the best that I could. with everything cranked up, you're going to need a beast of a rig to run this game. If you're on a single GPU, especially for 1080, 1440, or 4K even. I mean, 4K, you're looking at 980 Ti Titan X minimum if you want to get anywhere between like 30, 60 FPS, I guess, or double GPUs or something in there. And then they still need to do work on the SLI here. NVIDIA and Nixxes and Crystal Dynamics, they need to all get together and come up with a new NVIDIA driver or a patch for the game, and they need to get SLI sorted out and hopefully get it scaling the way that it was in the previous Tomb Raider game where they had it really good. I thought SLI scaling in the previous game was great. If they can get it there, if they can get it to that point, then I think it's going to be really good. But for right now at launch, they have not done a good job right there as far as that SLI scaling is concerned. And then at the single GPU level, you know, you're just going to really need a beast of a system to run this game, man. That's really is what it comes down to. And I would like to have seen better scaling as far as the performance was concerned too there with adjusting some of the options. With that video memory that I mentioned being that I could take it down all the way to 2 gigabytes from 6 gigabytes and it had no effect on my performance. I thought that was craziness. I thought that should have give me some boost in performance, at least 6 frames, something like that. Anything in there would have been good. But yeah, I need to see better scalability here for the options and also for SLI here. So if they can get that patched in, then I think I'll be happy with Rise of the Tomb Raider, because otherwise the gameplay and everything looks fantastic. I can't wait to dig into this because I enjoyed the hell out of the gameplay in the last Tomb Raider, and so far what I've seen in this I've liked, and like I said, on my system I'm finding it playable. My system is absolutely ridiculous and I'm still not entirely pleased. I want more performance. I want a little bit more out of it because I feel like I'm not getting the full power out of my system. I know some people are going to think it sounds like, you know, you're just complaining and nitpicking and, you know, first world problems, all that jazz, but really at the end of the day, if you've got this, you know, big system at your disposal and you're not getting the full horsepower out of it, then really what is the point? But I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here, guys, so please let me know what you thought about the performance review of Rise of the Tomb Raider down in the comments below, as well as what performance you've been getting on your rig, so we can all kind of pair up our performance and see if that matches up, because this is just one person's opinion. I'd be interested to see how it lines up with other people. I know Total Biscuit did a video, a very brief video on his performance, and he was getting pretty good performance, but he was running on a Titan X, mind you. So that might have helped out quite a bit, because I said the video memory is getting maxed, right? It's getting maxed. So if he's got that 12 gigabytes, that really could be the deciding factor there, maybe. That really could be the deciding factor. I don't have a Titan X on hand to test. So if anyone out there has Titan X's or 12 gigabyte cards to test this, or I don't know if there's any videos that have been done with it, like Digital Foundry or anything, has done anything with it yet on this game, but I'd be interested to see that for sure. But I don't have one on hand to try. But I'd like to see that, because there's a limiting factor here somewhere. It's not the CPU. My CPU is not getting barely even tickled, like barely even going over 20% while recording and everything. And even not recording, my FPS was not any different from what your guys were seeing in the game. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I will catch you guys next time.